Oh, yeah. Going here. I'm going to call this meeting in order. It's about 6:34, 6:35. So the first, as I said a little bit before the meeting started, with the exception of the minutes, we're going to go in reverse order in regards to the application. So, but we're going to do the minutes first. So we have 3 minutes here to review and approve. First minutes is minutes for June 3rd, 2025. Is there any edits or discussion regarding those minutes? Otherwise, I'll accept the motion. Yes, you were abstaining. Okay, Commissioner Barberi makes a motion to approve the June 3rd minutes, seconded by Commissioner Mancini. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Commissioner Zales abstained. July 1st, 2025 minutes. Any edits or discussion regarding those minutes? If not, a motion would be appropriate this time. You'll be abstaining again, I'm aware, all 3 meetings. Moved by Commissioner Lanfear. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Exeter. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Commissioner Zales abstained. Last minute, minutes, July 17th of 2025. Is there any edits or discussion regarding those minutes? Seeing none, a motion would be appropriate at this time. Motion made by Commissioner Renzulli. Seconded by Commissioner Mancini. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Commissioner Zales abstained. And Commissioner Carrero. Yes, thank you. Okay, we will go in reverse order. We'll start with real term minor subdivision. Okay, thanks for putting that. I know this is a last minute change. Also, for the record, please note that Commissioner Barberi is abstaining from the votes on all 3 minutes. Thank you. All right, real term minor subdivision. Is the applicant here and wishes to be heard on this matter? And then we'll hear from staff and we'll also take public comment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. President. Good evening. For the record, my name is Robert Murray. I'm an attorney with the firm of Taft and McSally, located at 21 Garden City Drive. I'm here tonight on behalf of this applicant and owner for the property out on Plainfield Pike at 2112 Plainfield Pike. Some records show it as 2110 Plainfield Pike, but it is an industrial M2 zone piece of property. The board and members of the public may be familiar with it. It's for many years it was the site of the New Penn Express truck terminal. It is still an active trucking facility, but the owner of the property is an entity called RLF, Roman numeral 4 Terminals, SPE LLC, one of the larger truck terminal owners in the country. With me this evening from Chicago is Mr. Jack Battles, who works for a real term property management. They are the asset manager, and he's familiar with the property. He's here to answer any questions tonight if I can't help the board. This is a simple application. There are 2 existing lots out there. We're looking to re-subdivide them But we do not, in the M2 zone, we're required to have 200 feet of frontage for each lot. Existing today, we have about 300 and just shy of 350 feet of frontage. So we're one lot right now, which is, you want to go to the site plan, Jonas? You're looking at the plan. The larger lot, what you're looking there is the trucking terminal on the right-hand side. You can see all the parking spaces, the loading zones. This property has frontage along Plainfield Pike, which is a state highway, and on Amflex Drive to the rear, which is a road that runs off Comstock Parkway in the industrial plat back there. The property right now does not have direct access or ingress or egress out to Amflex Drive. There's a grade difference, there's a wall, and you can see the parking spaces along the southerly property line. So, so our focus is on Plainfield Pike, and we're looking to create a developable lot for future use in the lower left-hand corner of the screen you're looking at there, which is labeled as parcel 1. Right now, there's an existing assessors lot 99, which is about 7.5 acres, and that has 212 feet of frontage, which meets it's a conforming lot. It meets the frontage. And then there's a small lot of about 12,000 square feet, which is lot 24, and that only has 136 feet of frontage. So what we're looking to do is to make lot 99, which is the larger lot, smaller, down to about six acres from 7.5, and that would assume the 136 feet of frontage. And then parcel 1 on the screen before you would go from that lot 24 would increase from about 12,000 to 77,000, which would be conforming in size, and it would have the 212 feet of frontage. So we're kind of flip-flopping the frontage on these lots. So we're here tonight under the Unified Development Review process, asking the board to allow us to re-subdivide in this configuration and to leave the new parcel 2, which is the large lot, with 136 feet of frontage. The frontage along the existing lot 99 really is limited to the entrance to the truck terminal. All the activity for the truck terminal is to the south off of Plainfield Pike. So we're not changing the entrance to that terminal. There is a utility box that you can see a little jog in the parcel 1 because that utility box would stay with the truck terminal. So at the end of the day, if the board sees fit to grant the relief for the frontage, we would then have a lot in the front. Right now, if those are familiar, I don't know if we have an aerial, Jonas. No, I don't know if okay, if you're looking at it, you can pretty much see that grassed area in front to the right of the word town is what we're talking about. Pretty much that's the parcel that will be created for future development. We're not here tonight with the use. We just need to, the asset managers looking to create the lot so that we can then look at opportunities for development. The planning staff has recommended approval of this. They've reviewed it. They've cited, and without repeating it, the findings that you need to make in terms of the subdivision and the unified development requirements for the zoning relief. We have not created this hardship. We haven't given away any portions of the frontage. It's the existing frontage. We're merely looking to reallocate it. Be happy to answer any questions.
Is there any questions for Mr. Murray? Mr. Carrera?
Mr. Murray, that parcel in the front, it really resembles a detention pond. Was that ever supposed to be used as drainage for the actual larger site? Because it is depressed by 3 or 4 feet or more. And if that does go, what is going to be used to offset that?
I don't believe it's formally being used for detention purposes. Obviously, if a lot is created, then we have engineering to do to make certain that we're handling runoff from the truck terminal, where that's going to go, and any future development on the new lot. So I've very familiar with the property. I've never seen it being used in terms of retaining or detaining drainage there, but it's pretty much a lawned area. It is depressed, and you know, we'd have some grading issues to deal with when and if we try to develop it.
So if any development is to take place, the appropriate drainage will be addressed for both parcels
Yeah,
and their net engineering.
I'm sure your department would insist upon it, so.
I'm sure we would too.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Mr. Murray? Okay, staff can make a quick presentation.
Just for context, quick, I also wanted to show off the zoning map and the future land use map, just to see that you can see that's basically in the middle of an industrial area. Its surrounding land uses are industrial, with a handful of them commercial. Future land use maps pretty closely to that as well. The area, you can see the built land use there, and the area is also mostly industrial. And just to reiterate, this is the amount of relief that they're asking for, just the 63 feet. The lot does have the lot that is that requires the bigger lot that requires the frontage variant, the lot width variance. Technically, does also have some frontage on Amplex Drive, but you know, the primary frontage is here on Plainfield Pike, and that is also where the primary access is, and this is where the lot width relief will come in. As you've kind of seen with the area, you know, it's continuing an industrial use in the industrial area, and the way the proposed lot layouts, you know, match existing infrastructure on the site, and they will also open up the vacant site for future development, which will also be in line with the industrial area and industrial uses surrounding it. Just provide a lot, just lot size wise. And while yes, the lot width would remain non-conforming for parcel 1, the proposal would create lots that are more conforming to the zoning ordinance and more consistent with the surrounding M2 zone lots. We also find that the proposal is consistent with the comprehensive plan. As of now, there's no specific uses that are proposed, but you know, they're M2 zone lots, and the lot sizes are conforming for M2, which were, you know, permit additional industrial uses on that proposed parcel 1, and will also, by, you know, maintaining that access to parcel 2, also allow the continuance of the industrial use on there as well. And, you know, creating the additional lot would align with goals ED2 and ED23 and policy ED23, which relate to, you know, attracting capital and allowing growth development wise. We're also not anticipating any environmental impacts. This is outside any flood zones. There's no wetlands on the site. No known rare species. Currently, there's no you know, proposed uses, so we don't know what the impact of those would be, but those can be evaluated later when that proposal comes through. And just one thing of note, the RIDEM environmental resource map has showed the vacant parcel as prime farmland, but very unlikely that this will ever be farmed just because it's middle of an industrial area. The proximity to the industrial uses will, you know, probably make this very unlikely for farm uses. Currently there's no changes to proposed parking or traffic circulation. So that'll stay the same. So quick note on the zoning analysis, as you all know, the end of June, there were some changes to state law. And for minor subdivisions, for minor subdivisions that are reviewed under Unified Development Review, one of the findings we don't have to make a finding for one of them.
Correct. I don't have the state law memorized yet, but one of the, when you have unified development, one of the standards, and I did put it in my email, one of the standards was that you are not creating your own hardship by subdividing the lot. That used
Yeah.
to be a finding that was part of the findings. Now they took that out of the findings for unified development. So this would be one of the cases where they you're no longer creating your own hardship by doing something.
Yeah, so just so you know, I left that out of the analysis and will probably be left out the findings at the end as well. Thank you for clarifying. So generally, this request for dimensional relief is very much dictated by the shape of the lot, the existing driveway arrangement. The proposal is very much there to aligns with, like the lot lines kind of align with the existing infrastructure that's there. And, it follows along the vacant shape, the shape of the vacant area. And basically, while there's more than enough land area for 2 industrial lots, there's just not enough frontage for both of them. And granting the requested variance will create lot sizes that are suitable for the M2 use and align with the lots. Continued existing access to the industrial building on lot 99, which is consistent with Rule 2 and policy 23 of the comprehensive plan, and therefore will not alter the general character of the surrounding area or impair the intent or purpose of the zoning ordinance. And the final finding, provided that both proposed lots meet all but one dimensional standard of the M2 district and are able to provide adequate access and area for the industrial uses permitted in the M2 zone. We believe that denial of the variance would be more than a mere inconvenience. So for the recommendation, we are recommending approval for both the variance request and for the minor subdivision for the preliminary plan.
Okay, any of my colleagues have questions for the staff about this application? Okay. We will now move to public comment. Is there anyone here who wishes to make public comment on this application? Seeing none, Mr. Lima, is there anybody online who wishes to make public comment on this application?
There is no public comment online.
Okay, thank you. All right. All right, Mr. Bergman, you provided us with your recommendation, which was a positive recommendation to grant variance and to approve subdivision. Is there anything else the commissioners have as questions for the staff or the applicant, by the way? Okay, hearing none, then this would be an appropriate time for discussion or a motion, and there would have to be 2 motions, I believe. One is for the variance and one is for the subdivision, right? Right, I'm getting better at this stage. It's unified development thing.
They'll change it once.
Next year, I'll get messed up again. All right. Commissioner Zelos? Okay, that is a motion to grant the variance request. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Pereiro. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Now that's the appropriate time for the second motion. Commissioner Zelos. The minor subdivision. Okay. All right. Is there a second to Commissioner Zealos's motion? Seconded by Commissioner Renzulli. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Guys have it. Okay, that's it. Thank you. All right. Next is Cullion Homes. Just wait for the staff to pop it up. Mr. Mancini? Okay, is the applicant here and wishes to be heard on the Cullion Homes application?
Yes, we are.
Okay, please go forward and proceed.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the commission. John Mancini on behalf of the applicant and owner. I'm an attorney with offices at 56 Pine Street, Providence, Rhode Island. And I'm here with respect to a petition for a minor subdivision. And the reason that the applicant is before the board is because the applicant is seeking a waiver of 2 subdivision regulations in conjunction with the extension of a roadway and the development of a paper street, part of a newly developed and underway subdivision in this area. The applicant owns a single lot and is seeking to subdivide that lot into 2 separate lots, both of which would conform to the zoning ordinances and the subdivision regulations, except for 2 issues. One is the subdivision requirement for a cul-de-sac, and the second is the subdivision requirement for curbing. The applicant is asking that the cul-de-sac be substituted for a hammerhead, or I should say hammerhead be substituted for a cul-de-sac, and that's the waiver that is being requested. And then secondly, the applicant's requesting for elimination of a curbing on these 2 lots. The utilities are there. This has been submitted to Viola Water. It's been reviewed by DPW. Staff has also reviewed it, provided a recommendation, which is positive. The proposal is consistent with the surrounding area, and the use of the hammerhead has also been reviewed by the fire department, and they deem it acceptable. It's not something that is out of the norm, nor something that would create an issue, both from a safety perspective as well as a traffic perspective. So with that, we're simply asking for the approval with regards to the waiver of the two regulations that I've noted. So I'm available with any questions that the board may.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mancini. Is there any questions for Mr. Mancini regarding this application? Commissioner Lampier.
Hello, Mr. Mancini. Just a quick question. You said this was part of an ongoing subdivision.
So, no, these lots are not part of an ongoing subdivision. The roadway, Liliana Way, is under development now with development of existing lots that were approved by this board. As part of the approval and part of that development, there was a paper street, which is essentially a spin-off or a stub of Liliana Way that led to this property that permits and provides the opportunity for the owner to further subdivide. In other words, had it not been for the subdivision and the creation of Liliana Way with the infrastructure there, we would not have been able to.
And do you know if the other land development for housing requires curbing?
That's a good question. I don't know if it does. Staff would have.
Oh, what was the question? I'm sorry.
Whether Liliana Way has curbing.
Mr. President, yes, through our review of that development, the entire development of Liliana Way does have curbing.
Mr. President,
Go ahead.
through the chair, just to ask, so these 2 would be excuse me, an extension of that, but it would be inconsistent in that it would not have curbing.
That is correct. One of the recommendations that we were going to have is, I was trying to determine what's the benefit to the city to not have curbing in this area when that entire newly developed area does have curbing. And I couldn't think of any. And at the time when this plan was originally submitted, we did not see the underground detention system that they're proposing at the end of that stub where that hammerhead is. So it would be my recommendation, we want to keep the water in the roadway. And when they put berm in there, there's only a 3-inch difference between the road and the back of that berm. So during the heavy rains, which we've been getting more and more frequently, you'll have more water potentially going up onto the private property and washing down to the end of the street where this underground infiltration system is going to be. And there's a very good chance that the city is going to have to take over maintenance of that system. And as a result, we would like to just keep the rainwater within the roadway, minimize any of the outside particulates from getting into that roadway and being able to maintain that system in the future too.
And a berm would accomplish that more efficiently than curbing.
No, it would not. The
It would
berm is
not.
less efficient. My recommendation was going to be not to grant the variance for curbing and then to require the curbing in order to be A, consistent with it, and B, to be able to keep the water in the roadway where it belongs and get it to that detention system that we have at the end of that parcel.
Thank you.
That's fine.
Mr. Mancini, since the Public Works Director is bringing up the fact that he doesn't want your waiver granted on curbing, could you explain the need or why you think it's important to have the curbing waived?
Absolutely. So the thought process the thought process behind not doing the curbing, essentially these two lots are going to be maintained by the applicant, utilized by the applicant. It's not really, the applicant views that as a paper street and an extension of Liliana Way, but really more as a driveway to these two lots, because it's not a long roadway. It's not an extensive drive to it. So that's the primary purpose. Is it a live or die situation? No.
So I can understand, this is a paper road and you guys consider this paper road, what again, a driveway?
Yeah, because all it is, it's really a paper road, but when you look at the length, and I can't see it from here, but I think it's probably about 100 feet. Frank would know better.
Well,
The length of the
new section of roadway is about
improvement,
150 feet.
Yeah.
Just under 200 feet of new roadway. And that is a public right of, it is not a paper street.
So we initially had proposed it as a private right of way.
Yep.
But it was initially part of Liliana Way as a public right of way.
Okay.
So for that, it makes sense to maintain it a public road of way. But we had initially, as part of our initial application, when we did submit for the waiver, we had proposed it to be a private roadway.
Okay. So why, I mean, this is maybe more of a conversation with the Public Works
Well,
Director.
that's where the conversation took place.
Yeah, so,
And so we kind of went back and forth with Public Works
so let me
on
just,
the idea of, does Public Works want to maintain it a public right of way, or can it be converted to a private right of way as initially proposed and thought of by the applicant? Public Works determined that it would be beneficial as a public right of way because it's already been deeded that way. It's already been kind of provided as part of the initial subdivision.
Director Carrero, just for my own edification then, can you explain why why this should be a public versus a private? And just explain again, why is it it's beneficial to the public that it's curbed versus not curbed?
I feel like I'm up there over there, but we have a couple of different things to address. Number one, from what I understand, as far as the regulations go, in an A8 zoning, you're not allowed to have a private roadway. So that discounted the fact that it would ever be a private, although they were proposing it, we initially said you can't do that because that's not what's allowed by regulations. You would need an additional variance for that. So we tried to get that off the table. And as far as the curbing, like I said, the fact that the original development that this is associated with was just installed and it is all brand new curbing, we felt it would be consistent to, one, maintain that character of maintaining curbing throughout the entire development. And two, it also helps maintain and keep the water runoff in the roadway where it belongs so that when it gets down to that detention pond, that's at the end of it, it's an underground infiltration system, which is not shown here. But there are two catch basins, and the more debris we can keep out of that, the easier it's going to be for the city if we ultimately take over responsibility to maintain that, which we have requirements by DEM to do annually, inspect, maintain, clean, et cetera.
Okay, so it's the runoff is the reason for it. Thank you. One last question, Mr. Mancini. I just don't understand this. What is a hammerhead thing? We call it like the hammerhead. What is it? What is that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I guess we can call it a term of art. But I'm not sure how artistic it really is. And essentially the reason why I call it a hammerhead, because on paper it looks like a hammer. You would call it a sledgehammer.
Oh, I see.
But
So
that-
that's why it's
so
called the
so the
hammerhead.
trucks can turn around. Yeah, but
so they
that's
do a
why they call it.
three-point- A three-point turn.
So the
Okay.
fire trucks can turn around.
As
Okay.
In the benefit of the sledgehammer or the hammerhead is that it's less maintenance for the city,
Understood.
less space that's taken up from the homeowner, but it's equally effective.
Thank you. Is there any other questions for Commissioner Mancini? Mr. Mancini, I'm talking to the commissioners here. Commissioner Mancini, before we hear from staff. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mancini. Mr. Bergman, please provide your report.
Before moving on, once again, I also wanted to show, this is an A8 zone, surrounded completely by A8s, with the exception of further out by Manor Road up there and Briarwood Avenue. That's A8 surrounding, and the future land use map also shows the single family designation. So as you'll see, the proposal will be meant to be very consistent with that area. So, starting with consistency of the comprehensive plan. As shown, the proposal is going to create two lots, one of just over 10,000, one of just over 15,000 square feet. The densities honestly is actually a bit, density of the subdivision is going to be a little under the like range, but we found this to be acceptable because the larger lot features steep slopes and triangular shape. Specifically here, this proposed lot one. As you can see, it kind of falls off. There's some steep slopes in the rear, so it's not going to be very buildable, and kind of limits that buildable area, and it's beneficial for that slope to be maintained as to be landscaped, so they can help stabilize the slope. And also, as you can see on this map, there are a lot of abutting lots that are they're between like 10,000 and 20,000. So even though they're proposing larger lots, that is very much in line with the rest of the area. And here is a selection of goals and policies of comprehensive plan that we feel support this application. So for the environmental impacts, we generally find that we don't find any significant environmental impacts. Going to be outside of flood zones. The steep slopes in the rear the proposed house is going to stay away from most of those steep slopes in the rear of that parcel one property, in part because of the hammerhead proposal, which I'll show later a comparison. And of course, there's right on Natural Heritage map shows that there's no known rare species or sensitive habitats on the site. There were some things that need to be addressed in the plan. Frank Guerrero gave me a list, and that list is going to be in the conditions, and there are more smaller details that can be adequately addressed in final plan. For the traffic circulation, I kind of wanted to start talking a bit about the waivers. So our regulations do require that minimum of 35-foot cul-de-sac, but they're requesting a hammerhead. So during this process, we ran the hammerhead idea past both Public Works and the fire marshal, and all of them have been in agreement that this is appropriate and it's acceptable for this specific case. As was already stated, it's only going to be supporting 2 lots, maximum of 1 additional lot, because the extension of that public right-of-way could There's this property here that theoretically could potentially subdivide, but that is because of the highway here, that would be the only one that could connect to that future road. So we're really limited to, you know, a total of 3 houses at the end of this section. No, the proposal really only is 2. And we also think that it would, you know, reduce impervious surface and maintenance costs for the city, potentially even allow for some snow storage at the end of the roadway. So generally think the hammerhead is preferable. Just for context, the left here was the original submission with the cul-de-sac proposal. So you can really see the like smaller footprint that the hammerhead has compared to the cul-de-sac. So this was one of the waivers that also was requested, was the curbing is proposed to kind of end here where the existing lot starts, and then it's proposed to be a berm for the rest of this hammerhead. So in conversations with DPW, I guess our understanding was that the berms would reduce like costs for the city, but I believe there may have been some miscommunication about the berms and versus curbing. So while in the memo and the analysis, we've shown that that the planning department is okay with continuing with berms. You know, if there is really a serious concern from the DPW, we don't want to go against that recommendation either. So generally, we are recommending approval for the subdivision and approval for the hammerhead waiver. And the following conditions. One would be the approval of the waivers, and 2 would be approval of the state and just any additional approvals that would be required. And then 3 through 5 were recommendations from Mr. Correo. And 6 and 7 will be additional are also requirements. There were also recommendations from Mr. Correo, but there are also requirements for the final plan subdivision regarding the easement for the end of the hammerhead and a requirement of having a bond for the public road.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Berglund. Any questions for staff about this? Okay, just a couple of quick things. These conditions that you've listed here, I know some of them come from the Commissioner Carrero. Have you talked to the applicant at all about these conditions? Just curious. I can ask him just whether or not I'll just ask the applicant.
So we have talked with the engineer about conditions 3 through 7.
The applicant, do you have any anything you have to say on these conditions? Do you object to them? Do you accept them, et cetera?
We saw the conditions as part of staff approval, and we don't have an objection.
Okay, thank you. One last question, Mr. Bergman, and this is like I kind of know what the answer is, but it's over there on number 8, payment of Eastern Cranston Capital Facilities Development.
Correct.
This thing is just touches basically 295, right?
Yes,
And that's considered Eastern Cranston?
it is right on the edge.
Right on the edge, okay. So when we revise our impact fees, I
Mhm.
consider that.
Mhm.
Okay, so I've said this before, because we're going to schools in the western half of the city. They're not going to Cranston East. They're going to Cranston West. They're going to Cranston Middle School, to Orchard Farms, not Orchard Farms. I think they're going to Oaklawn over there. So just as I'm saying this for the edification of the staff, is that when we revise our impact fees, it's not really Eastern Cranston, but for purposes of this discussion, we're gonna accept it, but just going forward, we need to change that. Any other questions for Commissioner Renzulli?
Thank you. I'm concerned about setting a precedent. If we approve this with the curbing, how do we defend requiring curbing going forward?
Precedent sounds like a legal question. So, Mr. Marcella, do you want to discuss that?
So each application is based upon its own. No, but Tom's talking. Tom. Each application is based upon its own merits. You don't set any precedent by deciding one application one way. You can certainly decide the next application a different way because every application is somewhat different. It doesn't sound like there's consensus to waive the curbing anyway. But certainly, again, it depends on the neighborhood, depends on drainage, it depends on the application. So certainly whatever you do tonight on this application won't have anything to do, there won't be any legal precedent moving forward on any other application.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff about this? Okay, seeing none, I'll go to the public here in the room. Is there anyone here who would like to make public comment on this application? I see none. Mr. Leamer, is there anything online?
Brandon Hollinghurst.
Please state your name and address.
Brennan Hollinghurst, 31 Liliana Way.
Let's proceed.
Hi, yes, I just have concerns over the applicant has already started bringing in sewer and stuff into the public right of way. But I have concerns about how they're not following the rules to do it. Today, they had the whole road closed of Liliana Way without a police detail, and we had to report that, and a police detail had to show up. They also are starting at 6 a.m. in the morning, breaking noise ordinance of 7 a.m. And they also block the fire hydrant continually, presenting a safety risk, as there's a lot of new children who live on this road.
Thank you, sir. Is there anything further?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you very much. Is there any other further comment on this application online?
I see no other public comment.
Thank you. All right, we'll now return to any questions the commission has for staff or the applicant. This question's for the applicant. I just heard public comment about your work practices, alleged work practices. I'd like to hear what your response is to that public comment.
I don't know. It's tough to comment on something I don't know about. I do know that they have a permit. Well, I'm not against that. That's a question for DPW. I hate to put him on the spot, but he would know what permits they've been issued. There is work going on there on site because that roadway is under construction. There are building houses along that roadway. So I don't know what, the only thing I can think that the applicant could be doing there, and I'm not sure that they've started it, is the stub connection off the main trunk coming on Liliana Way. That would be taking place at the mouth of this Stub Street and along Liliana Way, but I can't say for certain, so I don't know. And I don't know what permits that they've already been issued. I know we've been working with Viola Water and DPW to get our sewer availability, which has been issued, and to get our sewer permit. I know that there was urgency to start work there because there was concern about Liliana Way getting a second coat, and we didn't want to have Liliana Way fully paved because that would bar our ability to then go and open Liliana Way. So I don't know what permits they have. As far as timing and when they start the work, I mean, that's something that, a contractor would know and would be enforceable by police or building. I don't know.
Thank you, Mr. Mancini. Does the Public Works Director want to weigh in on this issue?
Yeah, just to follow up to that is, yes, they do have the right-of-way permit to do the physical work in the roadway to tie in the sewer and the water. So those permits are issued and they have the right to do it. Obviously, if it's a 6 o'clock time, I believe our ordinance require nothing before 7.
Mm-hmm.
So that may have been in a violation, and if they were aware of it, I'm sure they can shift their operation so that they would start at 7. The only other thing is where the sewer line is in the middle of the road, in order to put the manhole in that has to go in there, they did have to close the road in order to do that and open up that road and be able to have no traffic going through there without having to put anybody at risk. So it's very possible that they closed it for the duration they needed to put the manhole in, connect the sewer. But once that's done, the road would be open, and they're just continuing to stub down that stub roadway that is
Okay.
yet to have a name.
Okay. And I would assume that if somebody has information that they're violating our ordinance by working before 6 or parking their vehicle in front of a fire hydrant, they could bring it to the city's attention and the city could address it, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And I assume, Mr. Mancini, that whatever work practices you can state that you would avoid violating our ordinances and not park in front of a fire hydrant, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, again, that wouldn't fall within the applicant's hired a contractor, so I'll have to find out who the contractor is and make sure that they're following your ordinances and there's no violations going forward.
Yeah, I mean, just a member of the public is bringing this to our attention. Obviously, we're not the enforcement board on these sorts of issues, but I would say to the member of the public, if you believe someone is violating our ordinances and rules, please bring it to the proper authorities in the city and it will be enforced and there'll be consequences as appropriate. Okay. Any other questions or comments for the applicant or for the staff? Commissioner.
Are
Guerrero?
we able to break this down into exactly what is it that we're looking at for the approval? Are we approving variances or denying variances first or waivers, or is it just an overall approval of everything?
You could decide how you want to do this. The easiest way, of course, would be to, if you want to do staff's recommendation to approve it with these conditions, but say, with the exception, I do not approve, for example, the curb waiver. See what I mean? I think that would be sufficient, because I don't think there's a zoning variance here. This is about waiving our subdivision
Yeah,
regulations.
this is an old time
Regular.
subdivision application, correct? So you can vote on the waivers separately, or you could make one motion to include one or both of the waivers or not. It's up to
Right, and like, for example, if you want to say, hey, I want to grant this with the conditions set forth by staff, with the waiver for the cul-de-sac, but not for the waiver for the curb. We would understand what that means. The applicant would understand what that would mean. Me personally, about the curb issue, I really don't have a strong feeling about requiring curbs. Generally, I like the suburban look of no curbs, but you have given me 2 reasons to not grant the waiver, which is 1, the rest of the area is curbed, but more importantly, the runoff issue. I was not aware that does make a difference. And we are in a era of runoff in this city, so it does make a difference. Any other?
And just
Go
as a
ahead.
clarification for that, one of the reasons I do stress that is only being here 7 or 8 months, but I've had several complaints come in from other areas within the city that do not have curbing, but with this runoff that we've been getting, you're ending up with roadside erosion, people complaining that our water is going onto their properties and they want us to do something with it. So the best way to contain that and keep it where it belongs, which is in the right of way, is by having curbing.
Correct. Understood. All right, any other questions for the applicant or staff, or any comments? Not, it would be an appropriate time to have a motion.
So I'll make a motion to accept the recommendation of staff for an approval of the subdivision, with the exception that we do not grant the waiver for curbing.
Okay, that is the motion of the Commissioner/Director Carrero to grant agree with the staff's recommendation with the exception of the curbing. That is
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Exter. Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mancini. So on the agenda is 199 Gladstone. Evening. Applicant here and wishes to be heard.
This is Dylan Conley on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Conley. Proceed.
Thank you. I have a handout, which is just a couple of snips of the application and information from the planning report, if I may.
Proceed.
So I am kind of referring this as historic restoration of the original plat map. We're going to return the neighborhood to its original design. It's fun. If you look at kind of the zoom out of the original plat map, they're almost all 5,000 square foot lots. This lot is a 10,000 square foot lot. If you look at the image of where the existing house is on the lot, it was very clearly built on a 5,000 square foot lot, which subsequently became a 10,000 square foot lot. So we're just looking to subdivide it. We'll create one vacant lot. A question that we do have for the board, and I don't want to belabor the point, the planning department's memo is excellent, and there's no need for me to be redundant. There is one open question on whether there's a preference on what we do with the retaining wall. If the board wishes for us to maintain the retaining wall, we will. We will just put an easement in place to that effect. Or we can tear it out. It doesn't make a difference on our end. There's a letter of support from the councilman in the record with a specific request that we remove the cabana garage. We have no objection to that. We're happy to meet that requirement as well. So I'm happy to answer questions, but I don't want to repeat information unnecessarily. That the planning report is very, very thorough.
Thank you, Mr. Conley. I did review the one public comment we received in writing from the councilman. So you have no objection to the removal of the cabana shed structure.
Correct.
And so that would be okay as putting as a condition in this?
It would be, Mr. President.
You believe you have adequate parking for this area, for this project?
Yes,
Okay.
we have plenty of parking both on site. We have good access to the site. The roadway itself also does appear to have ample parking. The other buildings in the area also seem to be very well parked. But specific to our lot, we believe we will meet or exceed the parking requirement on both lots.
Is there any other questions for Mr. Conley at this time from my colleagues in his application? Okay. Stick around, Mr. Conley. Staff, you can proceed.
Application at 199 Gladstone in the Laurel Hill neighborhood in the B1 zone, single and two family residential. The proposal is to reconfigure the existing one lot into two new lots. It will have to remain an existing single family dwelling as well as a proposal for a new single family house. Here's the aerial view. Zoning in B1. Future land use is density less than 10.89 units per acre. I included the radius maps just for sake of my analysis. We can go back to that if need be. Here's the existing plan. And you're gonna see the stone wall that's slightly in the middle of the property, cross over the boundary of the new lot. Planning analysis is that Gladstone Street has a high presence of single and two family homes on undersized lots. The majority of two family dwellings in the neighborhood are situated on less than 10,000 square feet. This proposal yields a lower density than most of these two family dwellings. And so I'm just making that comparison because they have enough square footage to put a two family house on 10,000 square feet. But by subdividing to create two lots and put essentially have two single family dwellings, that's actually yielding a lower density than if they were to put a two family on the single lot as is. Moving forward, I would say half of the single family dwellings in the neighborhood are also on undersized lots, less than 5,000 square feet. So in comparison to those, at least these two lots would have 5,000 square feet. Some of the ones around it actually have less. This subject property is unique in having 10,000 square feet and having the existing structure situated close to one side of the lot, leaving an open space with frontage to locate a new home. And there is consistency shown within the comprehensive plan by housing goal 4 and housing policy 4.1 as well as 5.2. Consistency with the zoning ordinance and subdivision and land development regulations. The future land use map designates the property single two-family under 10.89 units per acre. This proposal is alone 8.71 units per acre. The proposed subdivision changes the density in the 400-foot radius from 7.86 to 7.95, still significantly within the region or margin for future land use. Therefore, staff finds this proposal generally consistent or highly consistent with the comprehensive plan, the zoning ordinance, and the standards for required findings of fact. And staff therefore recommends that the City Plan Commission adopt the findings of fact and approve the unified development review of this subdivision with the following variances. Lot 129 with the existing single-family house will be granted zoning relief to have a lot size of 5,000 square feet where 6,000 square feet is required, as well as having a frontage of 50 feet where 60 feet is required. And exactly the same, lot 132 will be granted zoning relief for a single-family structure to have a lot size of 5,000 where 6,000 is required and 50 feet of frontage where 60 feet is required. Recommending the approval for both the subdivision and the zoning.
Thank you, Ms. Halper. Any questions for the staff on this application for my colleague? Commissioner Lanfear.
Thank you, Mr. President. Attorney Conley mentioned the retaining wall that is present on site. I know that that area, especially Gladstone, as it goes into Dyer Avenue, is pretty sloped. Have you had the opportunity to look at that retaining wall, and do you have an opinion as to whether or not it should remain there and be maintained?
As far in terms of drainage, no. In terms of possibly selling the subdivided property, the subdivided parcel, I believe there would have to be an easement if the wall were to remain as it crosses the property line. So that's the only complication I see.
Have you looked at it in terms of whether or not it's necessary to prevent erosion or into the abutting property, what will now be the abutting property?
I think that's a great consideration. I haven't taken any deeper analysis towards that angle.
Just a couple of questions, Ms. Valcourt. Thank you for putting in the new memo, 8.71. I was going to ask that question about what the density is of the proposed development. This is a question for the applicant. This is for strictly a single family home,
Yes.
correct? So if you,
Mr. Chairman, it's a vacant lot. We don't have a specific application as to the vacant lot. The home will be maintained as a single family.
okay, so the current one's a single family and you're creating a vacant lot. Is the proposal put a vacant as a single home or are you leaving it open?
Right now, just a vacant lot. We do not have financing necessary to build, so we may just be selling the vacant lot.
Right.
I don't know what the applicant will do on that front.
Okay. Do you know what it would be if it's a two-family? Because this area allows for a two-family.
What would the
The
density be
density.
you're asking?
Yeah.
I don't, due to the lack of specification within the application, I was highly specific in my recommendation that lot 132 would be granted for the construction of a single family structure,
Okay,
because that's what the analysis was.
right. So as you understand, we'll be approving this for a single family. If you need to go do a two-family, you're gonna have to come back and get
Yes.
relief. Is that understood?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. Okay, any other questions for staff or the applicant? And if anybody wants to opine on the retaining wall, that would be great.
What it's worth, Mr. President, we're very happy to put a maintenance easement in place or the likelihood of tearing it out and rebuilding a new one along the lot line.
I don't have a strong opinion either way. I'm looking at the Public Works Director to see if he has some sort of opinion he wants to grant.
Mr. President, if I can just clarify that, the property in this location, that retaining wall we're discussing is about 6 inches high, and then it dissipates into the ground.
Yeah,
So that would be up to the property owner. There's no easements required. There's no nothing. That's pretty much just to define, that seems like the property frontage line from the city property. There's no need. It's not having a structural function to support any earth behind it.
so I think your answer from the engineer in the room is that it doesn't matter.
That's good, because I didn't know.
Okay, so unless somebody here thinks it does,
Case are out.
okay. Anything else for, any question for the staff or for the applicant before I go to public comment? Seeing none. Okay, is there anyone here who would like to make public comment on 199 Gladstone? Seeing none. Mr. Leamer, is there anyone online who would like to make public comment on 199 Gladstone?
Councilman Andy Hall.
It's the councilman? Okay. Thank you, Councilman Andahar, for being with us tonight. What is your public comment?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the commission. I just wanted to let you know that I did speak to the applicant and I did mention about parking. They were willing to work with me and the community on parking. And my only concern is green space. As we're going to be building, there will be a lot of water runoff. So hopefully they could plant a tree or, some green space so that way, it absorbs the rain. But other than that, I'm happy that they're building, and I urge and I highly recommend that you guys approve this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I think the councilman asked about planting a tree.
No objection.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for the staff or the applicant? Okay. My own comment at this time is this application meets the density requirements. It's consistent with the area. I enjoyed very much Mr. Conley's historical map. I always find history persuasive. And when you can show me this is the way it was, it kind of makes me understand better what the situation is. My only caveat on this application is that as one of the conditions, I would request that the cabana shed be removed. And I think the guidance you have gotten from this commission so far is that that retaining wall of 6 inches does not serve a useful purpose and is at your discretion to remove. So with that said, motions are in order at this time or further discussion. Commissioner Lampier?
I would move to accept staff's recommendation for approval with 2 conditions. The first being, as the president suggested, that the cabana be removed. And the second being that the applicant shall meet or exceed off-street parking requirements for each lot, which is something that Attorney Conley said that they were in agreement with. The councilman was concerned about, and I think often we're all concerned about off-street parking. So I would like that added as a condition as well. With those 2 conditions, I would move acceptance of the staff recommendation.
So this is a unified development. So this is the variance and then the subdivision. So your motion on the variance
On
at
the
this point?
variance.
Okay. Is that okay for her to put those conditions up on the variance motion? Or does it have to go to the subdivision motion?
Well, the cabana, it should be in the subdivision.
Okay, so
yeah,
we're,
I'm sorry.
that's what I want to know. So first is the motion. So we'll do a favorable motion on the variance and then we'll put those 2 things on the subdivision.
Yes, I would move to accept staff recommendation on the variance.
Okay, just seconded by, a motion is made to support staff recommendation on the variance made by Commissioner Lampier, seconded by Commissioner Barberi. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Now would be the time in order for the subdivision regulation. Subdivision motion. Commissioner Lampier,
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve approve the proposal and accept the staff's recommendation with two conditions. The first being removal of the cabana and the second being that the applicant shall meet or exceed off-street parking requirements for each lot.
that second, the motion has been made by Commissioner Lampier to, for a subdivision, support subdivision consistent with staff recommendation with two additional conditions, seconded by Commissioner Barberi. Any further discussion on this matter? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it.
Thank you all very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Conley. Okay, it's 20 of 8. I think we'll get going on Bond Lane. Just let everyone move, give us a moment. All right, we almost ready to go? A little bit more time. I don't want to proceed without the solicitor, so when he comes back, we'll get going. Okay, we can proceed. The solicitor is in the room. Thank you all for this application, a sufficient amount of time, whatever time it requires for us to review it tonight and see where we proceed from here. So I've been trying to figure out how to start this. So what I understand is the applicant, excuse me, the abutter's attorney submitted a new document. And in this document made a request that this be denied tonight. Subsequently, the applicant submitted some additional documents, some of which that I first saw on the website maybe about 2.5 hours ago. So I would say it's challenging. I would say my initial thought, and I'm just going to say this to both sides, is that when you give me, everyone has a right to give me documents and for me to review it and for the commissioners to review it. But when we get documents literally right before the proceeding, it is challenging for me to review that quickly and then make a decision. So it's possible that my colleagues are ready to make a decision tonight on this. I haven't discussed this with them. I don't violate open meeting, but I personally am not likely to make a decision tonight unless something convinces me otherwise, that all of a sudden the light hits me. Usually,
And Ms. Trez, if I can just join in too. So there were documents which we received earlier in the week or late last week, which I forwarded to Mr. Seipel and were put on the website on Monday. There was also an email from Ms. Azar at, I don't know, say 4 o'clock today.
Yeah.
I haven't even, I have the email. I haven't looked at it. So I would be unable to give you any opinion as to those documents that were submitted tonight. And I don't even know if Mr. Seipel has seen them or if they've been put on the website as of yet. But I know Jonas, were those put on yet? The ones that came in at like 4 o'clock? Yeah, no. Probably not. So,
So, and by the way, solicitor, feel free to interrupt me at any time
yep, no
as I
problem.
proceed. There's like, I think there's like 3 lawyers here, and but
Count me, there's 4.
and then you and the other attorneys like 5. But we're trying to do the best we can to get this. So, I assume you wish, Mr. Moses?
Yes,
Okay, so you represent the applicant as well?
yes, I do.
Okay, so do you wish to be heard on where things stand right now?
Yes. If I may,
Proceed.
Mr. Chairman. On behalf of my client, we're willing to agree to a continuance. We have already agreed to continue to October the 12th, so there's time to do this September meeting. I would say to you that a massive amount of work has been done by our team to respond to questions and issues that have come up through these hearings, as well as from staff. But I agree with you, if you're not comfortable and have not had enough time to review this, we have no problem with agreeing to a further continuance.
Now, I know that the abutters don't want to continue this, they just want to end it tonight, but, so you're okay with a continuance, okay? Continue this matter to September, we have the beginning of
Yes,
mid-October.
that's
for it.
correct.
Okay. Thank you. I would, you're still gathering information and providing it in response to the abutters memo. I think my guess is that you have had discussions with staff and with the solicitor about more information.
That's correct.
Okay. I will tell you, based on what I am seeing right now, I just want to give you some direction for my own self.
Mhm.
And I do this knowing, so you understand, I haven't made any decisions about this. This is just what I'm seeing and where you need to address it, and maybe the abutters attorney will address it. Now, this is going to take I'm not going to say a long time, but this is going to take a little bit of time. Okay. So I read the abutters memo of August 5th. So to go in reverse order, they list a series of possible conditions that they would suggest the commission to impose in the event that we approve this at master plan level and went to preliminary. So I would ask that you address those specifically in writing before our next meeting, each of these conditions that they're asking at the preliminary plan stage, whether you agree, disagree, or you agree with modifications. One thing I'll ask out front is that this issue that has come up now a second time, that the developer be asked to agree that public comment be permitted at all subsequent stages of development.
I can't hear
I'm
you.
sorry, I'm reading too fast. The abutters attorney has specifically asked in his memo that the developer be asked to agree that public comment be permitted at all subsequent stages of development review. Now, Mr. Moses, my understanding is that the state law at the preliminary plan stage in Rhode Island does not prevent public comment from being had. And I know in our subdivision regulations, we allow for it. So I would just like to know, would the applicant object to us having public comment at the preliminary plan stage of this application, assuming the commission grants master plan stage?
I could tell you that my client's position has always been positive towards the neighbors. We're happy to hear their comments. However, I want to be clear. Preliminary plan is a technical approvals. So we will have DM approvals by them. We'll
Right.
have other engineering work. I'm saying they can comment as they please. However, facts are facts. And reports and engineering reports
Sure.
are that. But allegations and hearsay are not going to be, I don't think you should consider it, but it's your decision.
So I understand your response about what we can consider.
Mhm.
What I'm asking is whether or not you will object to public comment.
Yeah, I don't see any issue with public comment at all.
Okay, Because like I said, the statute does not prohibit it. I actually
It doesn't
see in the,
prohibit it, doesn't permit it, it doesn't require it either.
doesn't require, but it does say that notice to the public shall be given in a certain amount of time in the statute.
Yes, it's
Okay.
just notice.
Notice,
I mean, there's
but-
notice
but in-
versus-
Right, and in this, in our,
and it's your time.
that's right, and I'm sitting it right here, using that time right now.
Right.
And I don't mind it, because that's, I feel, my role. But my point is, I believe in our regulations, we do require public comment, or we have at least a discretion to. So that's why I wanted to know if you guys are
I'm not going
objecting.
to object to it if you're going to provide.
Okay, thank you. All right, that was simple
That it?
enough on that one. Let's talk about,
I don't, you got a memo today from,
no, I got this on,
you said the 5th, that's why.
August 5th, it says here, although this is dated. Yeah, so this, I was gonna say, this is dated August 5th.
All right, okay, I just want to make sure there's nothing.
So I apologize that
Don't
I
worry
just
about it.
went by reading the date
I'm
on the
easily
thing
confused.
versus I received this. I think it was Thursday or Wednesday of last week. I can't remember the exact date. Okay, but anyway, I don't want to get into semantics of
fine.
like what day of the week this was. One of the issues, Mr. Moses, is this issue about access to a public right of way.
Mhm.
And I want to talk about there's three access points that we're talking about here. One is Winnie Street,
Mhm.
one is Vaughn Lane, and the second is Vaughn Lane. And to distinguish the two, I'll call Vaughn Lane, the second Vaughn Lane is right next to Miss Salter's house. Okay, and then there's one at the beginning of Vaughn.
Do you have a map?
Yeah, could you put the map up so we could just? So the ones that show the access point, so it showed the development. Yeah, just keep going back, I think I saw it. All right, so you see the one is Winnie Street up north. And then you see Vaughn Lane here in the south. And it's the initial Vaughn Lane that goes there. And then there's another Vaughn Lane that's next to Miss Salter. Okay, so I'm gonna refer, that's so we know these are the access points, at least as I see it.
Yep.
The Winnie Street one. What I have read, Mr. Moses, and again, you don't need to address this, like respond to me, but I just want to tell you
No,
what
I'm glad you're giving us input.
I
so
need,
appreciate it.
because I want to give this also to the abutters as well when we have a chance to talk so that everybody kind of knows at least what I'm confused about. The first one on Winnie Street. The paved road ends, then there's a gate, and then there's an area that's basically all grass, and then it reaches your property.
Mhm.
And you insert that this is a public right of way. And I read a case provided by the abutter, Town of Coventry versus Ucci, which says the following. A public right of way, and I'm paraphrasing, a public right of way has to be granted and accepted. The acceptance is either by an official act or by public use. I don't see the area from the paved area to where your property is as being publicly used as a public right of way right now. I just don't see it. It's all grass. It's all grass. So I don't see that as a public right of way, as a use. The
Can I
next,
interrupt you on this?
yeah, go ahead.
So, as you know, Rhode Island is an old state, in that there is many public rights of way that are throughout the entire state that were created well before subdivision regulations, well before acceptances. So there are title rights of way that we've just provided, I think that this afternoon, class 1 survey of that. We have records, engineers who reviewed deeds, support that this is a public right of way. I know you haven't had a chance to review that. We will provide additional evidence to prove that that's a public right of way.
Because right now, what it looks like to me
Oh, I know.
is
just,
it looks like a paper road on GIS. And it's not I have no evidence that the city accepted it.
I understand.
Okay, so it's either accepted by an official act or it's accepted by actual public use. And the burden, if
but
I
the-
read the case correctly,
Mhm.
is clear and convincing evidence.
Mhm.
So this isn't like, kind of is. It's clear and convincing, as you understand, is a high standard.
Yes.
So I'm telling you, on Winnie Street, for me,
I understand.
you have a high standard of proof on all access roads, but that one in particular is problematic. I'm not seeing it being publicly used. You understand? So you can come back, you can
We'll-
rebut
we'll
me,
be prepared.
rebut the abutter, because you got to rebut the abutter because this will end up going to court anyway, one way or another. That's my sense,
We hope not.
but I understand. So that's number one on that access road. I'll go to the opposite end. The access road of Vaughn Lane where Miss Salter lives. To me, and I say this to the abutters, that seems pretty reasonably clear that that access road is touching their land and that's a right of way they can access to. That's just my own view right now, based on what I've seen and the evidence. Then you get to this access road, the first access road on Vaughn Lane, which is extremely confusing and a problem. And I've never seen anything like this. And I've only been on this commission about 3 years. You've seen more of this. Mr. Marcello probably seen this, and wherever Bob Murray is, he's seen it all. But what I understand is that you're claiming there's a right of way and that that right of way is wide enough to encompass a barn, a garage that's already there. So my question for you on this is, I don't know if that right of way is like, I don't know if you have 40 feet or 50 feet. Did the city, when this right of way was created, the idea of 40 or 50 feet, did that pre-exist when these buildings were built or they come after? Is there any grandfathering of the fact that these buildings were already there before?
I had a discussion with Mr. Marcello about this. And we discovered, by doing some research, that the owners of those properties were told, and there's evidence in that those garages are not on a separate lot. They are on the right of way. They're on the city's land. And it's clear, it's an enforcement issue. This is not, now, my client was forbid to move them onto their lot, if it was the abutting lot or whatever it was, to accommodate this. But they're not owned by the abutting property owners. This property is owned by a third party whoever represented them at the time. And it is, every deed references the agreement that Arkwright entered into when they sold those garages, that you're buying something that is on the city's right of way. So
And-
it is not a surprise to anyone who's owned it.
Okay.
They
So the homeowners,
agreed.
so you're indicating is that the homeowners, assuming they did a correct title search, which is their responsibility, would have known that
Yes.
those garages, that barn is on their right of way.
To
City
add
right.
Steve,
one
that-
thing, can I just add one thing, Steve, before you do that? The tax assessor is assessing them as separate properties, even though the land is the city's.
That, I believe those are uploaded,
Yes.
those are uploaded on the website.
Okay.
The survey and the deeds, are the deeds uploaded also? So,
Okay.
Again, 35 years I've been doing this, I've never seen a deed that literally says you're buying a garage
On a right of way.
on a right of way. It literally says you're buying a garage on the right of way owned by the city of Cranston.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to figure out, and I say this to you, the solicitor and Mr. Mosen, the abutter. This is a very unusual fact pattern. I think we could all agree to that.
Well, I think it is, however, when you have rights of way that have been established a long time ago, it's 1963,
Mhm.
you know, and people just do things. And people encroach, but you can't encroach against and be successful against the
No, and I understand the argument that you made in one of your memos is that you cannot, a person cannot take a public right of way by adverse possession.
That's correct.
I will recall that. So the abutters have a counter argument, they can, but I remember that. My only caveat about that is I wonder if this was granted a public right of way a long time ago, whether it really was a 40, 50 feet right of way, or it was intended to be a narrow right of way.
Mr. Chairman,
And like I said, I'm opening
President,
this, I
however
just
you're
don't know.
referred to
You
now.
can call me Steve too, or whatever, you know, that,
I will tell you that the deeds are so clear that when you read them,
yeah.
you're going to say, who's the fool who bought this? That's what you're going to say to yourself.
Yeah, okay, all right. So, go ahead,
No,
Mr.
I'm sorry,
Marcello.
Stephen, and that plat map is on the website too regarding
Yeah.
the street.
Arkwright actually platted this.
I think Commissioner Lampier wants me to break up the monologue I'm doing. Go ahead.
I just, because I didn't want to get away from the topic that was being discussed, but the conveyance, the deed, doesn't reference any land bounds or anything. It only references a structure,
That's
correct?
correct. And then it references the Arkwright agreement that says you're on city property. It's right in the description.
I mean, in my limited experience with deeds, it is not a deed like any deed I've seen before. But I just wanted to ask
Yep,
that because
that's
my,
correct.
very quick, because
Yeah,
it came
it really
late.
should have been a bill of sale.
Yeah, correct.
Candidly,
That should, like,
should have
when
been
you,
a bill of sale. It
when you
should
buy a
have been
trailer, and a trailer, you have a
of
land lease,
sale.
but then you have a bill of sale.
Thank you.
That's what it should have
Thank you,
been.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Another thing I'll bring to your attention is this. This has not been raised by the abutters, but it is something I'm
Don't
aware of.
help them.
Huh?
Don't help.
Hold on, loud. I can't ignore something I know. That's the problem. Let's presume, under our regulations, subdivision regulation, section 10, B7, it says cul-de-sac shall not exceed 900 feet in length. And I'm not sure, maybe this all is within 900 feet, but that is an issue, especially if I think, for example, if I were to say, hey, I don't think you have real access to Windy Street, I don't think it's a public right of way, that 900 feet could become a problem. And so under our regs, it says that in cases where unusual conditions exist, the commission may modify the requirements. But that's something I don't expect you to address tonight, but it's something that you should
We're
address
prepared to
address at the next meeting, okay? I really, so you understand.
Yep.
I will look at the documents, all this. I have a real problem with the Winnie Street access point, a real concern, a problem with the Winnie Street one,
Prepared and hook this access.
okay?
We apologize for the late delivery today.
No, it's, so it's just, we're
Get
just,
it as soon as we
well,
go.
I understand. I'm an attorney too, and I have a boss who loves being last minute. I have a boss who loves being last minute and drives me crazy. And, so I understand that, you know, things happen, but it's just as an adjudicator, I just can't, I don't make decisions based on somebody threw a piece of paper in front of me.
No, I-
You know what
I
I'm saying?
totally understand.
Okay,
we're
so
more
it's
than
not,
happy
it's,
to
and this
do
is for everybody, you
Yeah.
know, them, you know, they start doing stuff last minute. Let me think. I'd like I said earlier, you're gonna need to address the issues that they raised, the abutters did in their report. They're on stuff at preliminary plan stage. The Providence Water easement that cuts through your property. I know you submitted a document, I think on the website just recently about it. And I notice it's really remarkable how that aqueduct basically goes all the way down and then comes up all the way north to basically where Cranston follows like Phoenix and Cranston Street and then crosses over and is the dividing line between basically Dean Estates and the neighborhood north of it, which goes, some people call it Woodridge. It's really Bud Lawn, but there. There is paved road. You are able to pave over it, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Have you had, but there's certain restrictions on what you can are you aware that you can actually go put water and sewer through that easement? Yeah,
Yes.
okay. And you've gotten permissions expressly from the Providence Water Board. I believe
Yeah,
there's some
we have
documents
we have
says
an email from them
Okay.
saying that, and there are regulations on how you have to do it.
how you do it and all that stuff. And so in your opinion, therefore, it'd be a preliminary plan stage
That's correct.
where you would demonstrate whether or not you can actually cross that easement correctly. And
That's correct. All right. But we're confident we can accomplish.
these lots near this, the small lots over here near the, to the left, near the purple, and there's dark green and then the light
Colorblind,
green.
Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me?
I'm colorblind. so
Oh,
if
I
you could help me,
apologize.
I would
There's
appreciate
a
it.
number of small lots that are part of the first access point on Bond Lane.
All right, yep. I
You
what
see
you're
them,
talking
you said they're
Yep.
very, very small. Are these, are they
They're all more than 20,000 square feet.
and you do include, but some of these lots, they have like wetlands. That dark green
They
stuff.
all meet your subdivision requirements.
So that's your representation, all these other, okay.
Yep.
All right, I'll have to take a look at it a little bit closer.
Yeah,
Because it
but
just
If there's
strikes
an
me as,
issue, we'll be happy to address it, but
Okay,
my
'cause-
understanding is they all meet.
and if I do have an
subdivision
issue like in the next week or two, I will email you and the abutter to the
That'd be,
staff.
that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, because I want to make sure that I don't commit anything wrong here, because I may have follow-up questions. But really, so the Providence water easement you discussed, you say a lot of these things in preliminary plan stage, and you understand my concern about Winnie Street.
Yep.
And this thing on the Bond Lane, the first Bond Lane, it is a very odd situation. And
There was a case in Narragansett where someone built over a property line. Had to tear the house. But this is facts, this is a little different fact. It happened.
Oh, I understand things happen.
Now, I'd also say, Mr. Chairman, if I make a suggestion, that we should just, if we're going to have share questions with the butters council, that we should
Yeah.
funnel questions through Steve.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say that any,
I
not,
think that
not,
would be
not just
cleaner
you,
for everyone.
not just you, Steve, anyone on the commission
Yeah, that's the correct
can,
way.
can send them to me and then, copy Jonas or Beth.
Yep.
And
That
then I
makes
will,
sense.
Yeah, so if I have
So-
follow-up questions, Mr. Marcella can handle it, and therefore
Yep.
everybody's on the same page
That's
about it.
correct.
or if they're technical, just put me in the department on because
Yes.
Yeah.
it may not be a legal question, it may be.
Yeah, okay, I understand. Because this is a very, I'm not a dumb person, okay? I don't think I am. This is incredibly problematic and complicated for me. And I keep waiting for the light to dawn on me, like, oh, yeah. It's like this thing down there is pretty, it's a mess. So, but anyway, that's my 2 cents to you, Mr. Moses.
I would say this to you, if I may, not being bold or inappropriate. I've been doing this a long time. This is an annoyance. This is not a mess. This is land development when
Mhm.
you're a state that's fully developed and you have the remaining parcels and they all have a bit of issues that you have to deal with. You have to use good engineers and you have to work around.
Right.
It's a lot more complicated than it used to.
Oh,
You
yes,
used to have a nice flat piece of land, you used to be a farm, drove a road through it, put lots on it, and it was fine.
Right.
Those days are over.
right.
But this is not clearly the most complicated project I've seen.
Again,
Not even.
I've only been on
close.
the board for 3 years.
No.
And I'm not a land use guy, and Cranston is pretty much, people are trying to put little infill lots is the biggest thing, or they want to put something over here. This is odd for me. I'm sorry I've taken up everyone's time. Does anyone have any particular questions for Mr. Moses before we hear from the abutters in any way?
I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, that since we're continuing the hearing, you shouldn't hear any testimony. I think you should just have the vote for the continuance. and
Well,
Move on. My own opinion.
I
think- Because if I'm gonna have to listen to this, then I'm gonna put on our case. And I don't think that's your interest or their interest, candidly.
well, the point is, the way,
It's your hearing.
I understand that. And so the way it kind of works is, if we hear from you, I like to hear from the others, because that's kind of like due process. You know what I mean? That's kind of how it works.
Yeah, but
You know, so.
Mr. Chairman, you
so-
asked us to consider, to give a continuance and agree to a continuance because you didn't get the material on time. And we graciously agreed to that,
Yes.
okay? I'm just,
No,
I just think it's unnecessary,
no,
but it's your meeting. Do what
that's-
you see fit.
That's right. So we already have this until October 12th, and so I get that. I just want to tell you what my thoughts were. Now you had me kind of like, I was gonna say something and now you had me distracted. I'll ask this question to the solicitor right now, if possible. This is a big macro question, and if you can't answer it now, I understand. The options for this, for the board on this issue. One is we can approve it as is. We can reject it, the master plan. We could accept it with conditions, and the conditions being, this is what we want to see at preliminary plan stage, for example. The fourth, I want to know is if feasible, is can you accept it, but then make significant modifications? For example, if I determine, the board determines that there's not an access point at one of these locations, that would change the map, would change the plan. Is a modification of that nature really a rejection? Or is it an acceptance with a major modification? I know it's,
Yeah, not, well, okay. If you, obviously, if you accept or grant master plan approval, you're vesting essentially the number of lots in really the base configuration that they're showing you. You know, one of the concerns, one of the questions I had was initially, for instance, is there a buffer with the Providence water easement? In other words, building, et cetera. Something like that may affect the lot configurations. They're showing you different access points. If it's later proven that those access points are not valid, I mean, the Fawn Lane one, in my opinion, is good. Then they wouldn't be able to come up through the north. That would then change, for instance, any approval regarding a dead end, and we're only allowed 900 feet. So that would basically change the entire configuration of the project. So therefore affecting the number of lots, the waivers, et cetera. So certainly there are many things that could come in after master plan approval. Usually it's wetlands, it's drainage, it's ledge. In this case, we have, you got a lot of ledge up there. That may also affect the development. So while master plan obviously does vest the number of lots as it's shown, you're vesting them again based upon the access points that they're showing you, which I think we need to see now.
right,
Before you approve it,
yes, I agree with that.
rather than, if they can't show access, then while they do show access, and certainly something can go there, if they can't show full access, then the scope of this development, obviously couldn't move forward, and it would be a reason for denial. So as far as the
Okay.
access points, I believe that should be something you should look at and determine now.
Okay, so if I understand, again, I'm not trying to pin you down, I'm just trying to clarify for myself, and we can come back to this. If I don't find that they have access points for all three locations, three access points, Winnie, Bond 1, Bond 2, if I find that they don't have access to one of those three, I should vote no, or should I?
Well, that's too broad of a question.
Okay, all right. No, I'm saying like, is it more of a modification kind of a thing? Oh, anyways, just something to think about. I need to just understand what are,
I'm not gonna, they're saying that they have access, some of the documents that I've seen so far.
Yep.
I would agree, again, except for the Winnie Lane
Yeah.
extension,
Yes.
for lack of a better term.
Okay. Are there any other questions for the solicitor at this time before I hear from the public? You hear from the public? Okay. All right. Many of you have come here to be heard. So I want to give you the opportunity. You've heard the applicant speak. You've heard some questions from myself, one of the other commissioners. So if anyone here would like to make further public comment, I would ask the following though. If you have already spoken, please, and you don't need to hear repetition of what you've already said. We've already heard it. We understand it. If you have something new to add in particular, that's important for us to know, and so that the applicant also hears it. So that's the only thing I'd say. So anyway, anyone has public comment, especially those who have not commented before or have something new to say, please come forward. Okay. Please identify your name and address.
Yes, Mr. President, I am Stephen Seifel. I'm an attorney at Gidley, Sarley, and Marusak in the Turk's Head Building in Providence. I am here representing several of the neighbors. You know, it's unfortunately not at all a surprise that they are here asking for a continuance again. It's exactly the strategy they are employing that I said that they would when we were here last month, which is throw a bunch of stuff at you last minute and try to squeak this through master plan. And it's all playing out right here, just like I said it would. We have now apparently new documents from a couple of hours ago that I haven't seen, that my neighbors haven't seen, or my clients haven't seen. This is not fair to them. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to me. This is exactly what happened in the Secundit Partners case. Hearing after hearing after hearing, kick the can down the road, kick the can down the road, file things at the last minute. You don't have to let them play that game. You can deny it tonight. They should have had answers to all of these questions before this application was filed. They don't get continuance after continuance after continuance to get you information they should have gotten you in May when they filed this. And I have to comment about the documents that were submitted. Lightning that I got. That was the eminent domain water authority back in the 60s. And that was also some documents apparently in the chain of title for that garage. Is it possible to put those up on the screen? I don't want to spend too much time going over things on Winnie Street. The issue. That garage deed document, which I just heard was described very clear, and I'd like to put that on screen.
Yes, just have to give me a minute to pull it up. The actual deed or the maps? That was submitted.
PDF document. It's posted to the planning department's website. It's, yeah. So you could zoom in on top paragraph. Pull up, please. So this is Stevens to Semercia selling this garage building, right? And so what the deed says, you'll notice the really the most important word here in this paragraph is evidently, because the people writing this deed didn't know They didn't want to spend money for a survey. This, to me, is a guess. It's the same guess that the developer is making about whether or not this 50-foot right-of-way exists or not. They're saying Stevens says that they acquired this from Arkwright. And Mr. President, you just were discussing the Uchi case, and that tells us that all of this is about the intent of the owner. That's what we go back to. That's what we look to decide if land is actually a public right way. If the
Yeah, if, well, you're better at this thing. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Mr.
let's return to, order here. I don't want to use the gavel. All right, what did you say, Mr. Lima? Mr. Lima, did you want the, okay. Mrs. Pol, obviously, you know, the streaming service came to an abrupt end. So our IT person, Mr. Lima, is indicating, could you please summarize the last minute or two of what you said and then proceed?
Sure. So if we could put the deed back on the screen. Or it's titled agreement. So I was pointing to what we have here. The key word here in this deed is the word evidently, which means we don't know. Neither do they. They're telling you there's a 50-foot wide easement that they're trying to superimpose over this 13-foot wide road. And I have not seen any evidence that that was dedicated to the city and accepted by the city the way that it is required by the Rhode Island Supreme Court in the Uchi case that I provided. And then what I wanted to do next was move on, because there were a few pages here. So we had this 1970 agreement that was recorded in 96. So then we go to the next document, bargain and sale deed without covenants from Wolf, or Wolf as from Synertia through her estate to Swanson. So this says the agreement and tax map are annexed here too, because that is the source of their confusion over where the lot line is. So we can go 2 more pages. Or currentness of this map / data. This is, if not word for word, close to identical to the disclaimer that you get when you open up the other city GIS map, which as far as I can tell is what they're relying on to make this claim about this 50-foot wide easement. That is not evidence of anything. This is not reliable. They should have had a survey done. They should have had it done before they submitted their application. You should have had that in your hands in May. They do not know if there is a 50-foot wide easement. Neither did the people who were the parties to this deed. So this is the seller saying, hey, don't blame me if there's an issue. Maybe there's an issue. I'm looking at the tax map. I don't know. They don't know. The parties to that deed didn't know. The developer doesn't know. They have not met their burden of proof. Deny their application today. I gave you the cases, very similar situations, master plan. I don't want to provide the information. I don't think I have to with master plan. Yes, you do. So here we are. They're gonna, what are we gonna do next month? Another continuance, and then we'll find more documents, another continuance, and then we'll find more documents. You should have had this a long time ago. Either they have it or they don't by now, and they don't. They're asking you to rely on a deed that is referring to a tax map, which your own website says, do not rely on this. They're relying on the GIS map and the tax map. A deed where someone guesses that maybe, are we really going to assume that Arkwright gave away the land under its own building to the city? Does that make any sense to anyone in this room? Because that's what they're asking you to accept. That doesn't make any sense at all. The intent of the owner, which was Arkwright, was certainly not to give away the land underneath its own building. So I had some other comments prepared. A lot of it was already addressed by yourself, Mr. President, as far as it regards Winnie. I agree with your comments and your questions that you had about that. And you also referenced our conditions. You know, I've provided that to you in writing, and I think the support for that is better to come from the neighbors and my clients than it is for me. I think that you have already heard the testimony from them, and you will hear more testimony tonight to substantiate the reasons why all of those conditions are appropriate. And if I could just have one moment to take a quick look at my notes. I don't want to keep too long here because my position tonight is the same as it was last month, because really nothing has changed. What I saw yesterday was this set of deeds, which is irrelevant and can't be relied upon. And I saw eminent domain documents that have nothing to do with the city of Cranston. That was the city of Providence taking land in Cranston. The city of Cranston was not a party to any of that. It didn't give the city of Cranston any property rights. That wasn't a dedication or an acceptance of a public road. Those are irrelevant. So I was going to painstakingly go through the requirements for the dedication of a road, but that's been covered. I've covered the garage deeds, and right. So I was here last month, and I predicted that this is how they were going to conduct themselves. Last minute continuances, excuses. Same old, same old. You don't have to play that game. You don't have to let them play that game. You can deny it. I'd rather give my time to the neighbors and my clients. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is anyone here would like to make public comment on this application? Everyone, make sure you state your name and your address.
Sonia Meisenberg, 30 Roberts Ave, Westville. Good evening, folks. Let's take a moment to clarify misinformation that was documented in the minutes from the recent site visit to Winnie Street. Specifically, and I quote, "Decreed Engineering stated that the land between the paved section of Winnie Street to the top of the hill was owned by the city of Cranston." This information is grossly inaccurate. Jonas, I submitted a map for you to put up. Thank you. So what you have there is Winnie Street. To the north is lot 28. The south is lot 17. To the east is lot 258, which is the developer's property. Lot 17 and 28 are situated at the gated area at the bottom of the hill. The committee walked up to view the developer's property, lot 258. According to city records, this is a description of lot 17. In 1954, light growth, some ledge, no utilities, in rear, no street to get into it. In 1983 through 1984, the property is landlocked. Are there any questions? Are we in agreement of what landlocked means? There's no access. In 2006, the comment paper street is added to this description. Note there have been, you put the map back up, please. There have been no physical changes between the city and property owners. No, I forgot exactly what the term you used with paper streets transaction. Jump to 2025, it is wooded and a paper street. Personal records indicate that in 1966, an easement is established with Providence Water Supply, which is attached to both lot 17 and lots 28. I've submitted a copy of this easement, which involves the property owner and the Providence Water Supply. City of Cranston was not involved in this transaction. Property deeds associated with these properties range from calling Winnie Street a highway with no mention of an easement, which we know is incorrect, to having no mention of a paper street because the property is not owned by the city of Cranston. It exists on paper only. As you know, paper streets can be owned by a municipality, privately owned, or a combination. In this case, the city of Cranston does not own, have an easement, or maintain the property. There is no public city-owned access to the developer's lot 258 at the top of the hill. Like lot 17, the lot is landlocked in this location. We have heard tonight that there is public access there. You folks were there. Why would public access have a gate with a lock on it? You guys shimmied through a gate with a lock on it. If that was public access, there would not be a locked gate. For me to access lot 17, I have to get a key from the Providence Water Supply. There have been no transactions with the city. There is just no access through Winnie Street. You can deny this tonight. I've heard about Vaughan Lane, the access issues there. There is no access here. And I would also like to add that it is expected that the Dupree Engineering Company access their property from their legal access, not through Winnie Street. Thank you.
Next.
My name is Janet Jabo. I live at 78 Vaughan Lane. But when we did the walkthrough and we hit that dirt road, which goes straight up to my property at 78 Vaughan Lane, I was told that I don't live on Vaughan Lane, that when they come in, they're going to take a left-hand turn off of Vaughan Lane, but they're going to continue calling that Vaughan Lane. And I don't see how they can do that, but I just want to bring that to your attention. I've lived up there for 30 years. My tax bill says 78 Vaughan Lane, My husband lived up there, his family lived up there. Their address was Vaughan Lane. So my recommendation is that they just name their street something else because Vaughan Lane is already taken. Thank you.
Next.
Jessica Salter, 6 Vaughn Lane. Thank you for taking the time to hear from the community members tonight. I know it makes for a long night. And thank.
We need 5G in this city. Well, sorry, another 5 minutes to maybe 10. Sorry about that. Okay, Ms. Salter, you can pick up where you left off.
Okay. Jessica Salter, 6 Vaughn Lane. Thank you for taking the time to hear from us tonight. And thank you to everyone who came out to the site visit to see a portion of the impact that this project will make on this small rural community. I know it was a particularly hot day and we appreciate your commitment to seeing the section of the site. While we also appreciate the attendance of the developer's representative, Deprete Engineering, and the members of the owner's legal team to the site visit as well, there were still a number of issues that they either failed to answer or unprepared to answer or answered incorrectly. Access to the site continues to be an issue. While we appreciate that the developer's representative offered assurances that no personal property would be impacted, I would like to call each of your memory back to that day where Mr. Moses, Jeremy stood, called all of our attention and told us all that we had been told bad information, that no one's buildings would be knocked down, that no one's private property would be taken. So while he assured us that no private property would be impacted, it's impossible to fathom how this could be true and still create safe access to the site. At the site visit, Dupree proposed that Vaughn Lane be widened to a 50-foot road at the beginning of the road off of Main Street, then not be widened at all immediately after the 90-degree turn, and then be widened again after the second 90-degree turn. To be clear, I think we all know this is absurd. While we can appreciate that this plan is being proposed in an attempt to prevent damage or removal of private property, it is wildly unsafe for both drivers and current property owners. The span of the road they are proposing, or they were proposing, no widening to, is merely 19 feet wide, with no shoulder or even a ditch. It's edged to the pavement with buildings and stone walls and private property. How do you propose that emergency vehicles, school buses, and other city service vehicles make that turn? Or that even two cars navigate it? The fact remains that the developer and engineers have not been able to propose a safe entry point option via Vaughn Lane that does not require the unlawful removal of privately owned land and buildings. Likewise, for Winnie Street, the developer and engineer proposed widening a street less than the suggested minimum amount, but still bringing it within mere inches of a current homeowner's property. If a private citizen bought land and tried to build a house that close to the road, it would never be allowed. We have required setbacks in building codes for many reasons. Why then is the city, at the request of a developer, considering violating the same setbacks they have created in order to allow for the development of this land? Why may this road, which is solely needed for private development, not the community's greater good, be built up to the edge of existing properties? How do you think this will impact the homeowner's quality of life and eventual resale value? Vaughn Lane was built essentially as a driveway. The land was all owned, as we've heard, by Arkwright Interlock and Mill, where they originally built a couple of houses for staff that they wanted to be close enough to the mill to ensure they had access at all times. The house at the beginning, which is now 1 Vaughn Lane, which is now the property of Mike and Bree Comato, was built by the mill as the mill doctor's home. My home at 6 Vaughn Lane was built for the senior engineer. Vaughn Lane is a narrow winding path, as you all saw. It's built to provide access to these originally mill-built properties. This development attempts to apply modern planning requirements on a road built as a horse path, banked by stone walls and with buildings that are approximately 100 years old. These issues, the issues that make this road difficult to expand, predate any supposed city right-of-way. We keep hearing about the developer's right to widen these roads based on a city right-of-way, but we've seen no proof that such a right-of-way exists. The land to either side of Winnie and directly at the end of the paved stub has not been proven, as Sonia mentioned, to be owned by the city, as the engineer from Dupree declared at the site visit. Additionally, on Vaughn Lane, the engineer also declared land where structures currently stand to be, quote, owned by the city. We have yet to see any legal document not created by a private citizen, which was the sale of that garage, that declares these lands to be owned by the city of Cranston or subject to any official right-of-way. A simple notation made by a private citizen in a transfer of ownership is simply not enough to show proof of public ownership. What makes this any different than a notation that I might make in a property sale? A private citizen's opinion does not rise to the level of adequate legal record. When evaluating Winnie Street as an access point over the aqueduct, there continues to be additional issues. Yes, Providence Water may agree that a road can be placed atop Winnie and atop the aqueduct, as they do not define roads as structures. But I'll remind the Planning Commission that the City of Cranston regulations in relation to utility access and building near utilities clearly defines this as land unsuitable for development because of its proximity to utilities. I would assume that Cranston's definition of suitability was created with thought and purpose, and allowing Providence Water's definition to supersede this sets a dangerous precedent for future land use issues. At the site visit, a common answer to many questions and concerns by both the Planning Commission and the neighbors was that we don't need to provide that information at the master plan stage. It has become clear to everyone involved, despite what Mr. Moses just mentioned earlier, that this is a complex building site with a need to question issues beyond the standard master plan checklist. These issues include utility access, flooding issues, drainage plans, and more. And it is within your right to demand more information prior to granting master plan approval, and we ask that you do so. If they have been unable to do so, which they have not shown adequate information of access at this point, we ask that you deny it. However, the one issue that must be clear before consideration of master plan approval is access. And there are still many questions regarding legal access to this land and whether there are any safe entry points for this development and if they're possible. For this reason alone, master plan approval should not be granted. I'm sure that developers frustrated by the pushback that they've received related to this project. We too are frustrated that as existing homeowners in this community, we're having to spend sums of money on legal representation for a project where the owner simply did not do their due diligence on the front end to provide proof that they had the legal right to access this land in the way in which they are proposing. To put it simply, this owner purchased a parcel of land that has no road frontage, significant obstacles to safe development, and with questionable at best access points, and is now asking for the existing homeowners to step aside for his financial gain at their financial loss. And we're asking you to protect both our interest and the interest of Cranston in this situation and deny this project. Thank you.
Next. Good job. Cranston Citywide Councilman Richard Campopano, 1640 Pippin Orchard Road. It's not typical for a councilman to speak at these meetings, so I'll be brief as I usually am. I agree with President Frias very much when he says this is a mess. I just ask this commission to do what's right by these people. Thank you.
Next.
My name is Henry Ulrich. I live at 161 Holland Street, Cranston, Rhode Island. I am here to express my concern and feelings on the Vaughan Lane development being proposed before this planning commission. I have the 4-car garage on Vaughan Lane coming off of Main, second building on the left. Some of the things I have learned from neighbors in the last 2 planning board meetings are disturbing and will affect my building and, more importantly, others on Vaughan Lane as well as Winnie Street. It could adversely affect land, property, structures, walls, etc. I have been on Vaughan Lane for about 2.5 to 3 years. I store a couple of my antique cars in that building. I decided that this was a perfect place. It was quiet, peaceful, and wooded. The neighbors are great and look out for one another. The garages were brought back to life prior to me moving in about 2.5 years ago. A year ago, I had the opportunity to purchase the building, and I did that. Now, this development being proposed with little or no information has more questions than answers. This plan was clearly not thought out, in my opinion, and the effect it's going to have on Vaughan Lane, Winnie Street, Main Street, Hope Road, and surrounding roads in question, and should be. Never mind issues on the 90+ acres itself, which hold a host of other problems for the abutters and the area. The developer clearly did not do his homework just by what was presented at the past planning board meetings and the site visit. What it is looking like to me is a quick way to get a project moving at the expense of surrounding property owners and their quality of life. The site visit, which I and others welcome, gave perspective as to what Vaughan Lane and Winnie Street are dealing with. The spokesperson for the developer in the start of the site walk stopped and wanted to dispel rumors and bad information as to what his intent was in coming in on Vaughan. He stated they aren't taking garages, fences, walls, etc. He would be working around those issues. And his engineer stated the way they were going to do that, as well as similar issues on Winnie. I think the engineer and the developer are just telling us what they want us to hear to get this to the next phase. I'm not so sure they will honor what they are saying. Before I conclude, I want to thank the commissioners for doing a site visit where you get a full understanding of what's being proposed for Vaughan Lane and Winnie. I oppose the development as it stands now and the threat it makes to my building and other structures, walls, roadways, and access for all who own property on these two roads. Thank you.
Next. No further public comment. We'll go, oh, yes. Name and address?
Yeah, but Robert Sansone. I know we don't have the opportunity to adjust the minutes, but I referred to it as she in the minutes. Could I have that? Yeah, I'm definitely not a she.
I do my best to edit the minutes that come through, and I apologize if I missed a pronoun.
Yeah.
Okay.
45 minutes, please. That was on the July meeting. I don't know where to start. But I'm going to answer a question that you had asked on the site. Actually, no, I'll start by thanking everyone. Thanks for everyone coming. Thank Mr. President for giving me the opportunity. The commission, thank you, each and every one of you for being here, listening to what we say. It's a neighborhood, and more importantly, thank you for everyone who came out to Fiskville. Just like Jess said, it was a hot night. I have a medical disorder. I looked at the pictures. I was a sweating mess. I'm sorry about that. But that being said, thank you for coming to the site visit. This is, I'll start with this. This was a question that Mr. President had asked at the top of the hill. This is a topographic map. I think most people are familiar with what this is. This was downloaded from the ArcGIS account that through Cranston. I plotted it out and blah, blah, blah. I marked, here's Vaughan, here's Winnie. Now, as a simple math to figure out elevation grade, we use the ratio of rise over run, simple math. So I measured out 486 feet and the rise was 43 feet. You can verify that based on the topographic map, which works out to 0.00088477. And then you take the percentage of that, comes out to 8.85%. The elevation grade is nearly 9%. That is a hill. Now, for those of you who have kids who have gone skiing around here, Yawgoo, the beginner slopes are at about 6%. So that is a problem. If you'd like, you can. So back to our entrance. Now, a 9% grade, we drive in up a ice hill. Now, this is, of course, if Cranston takes down that fence that we had to shimmy through. I assume that's part of the plan. And now we're going up an ice hill. Now, I think everyone has that hill that is in their neighborhood that they can't get up. If you don't, it sucks. Because, you know, I gotta get home from school or I gotta get home from wherever, and you're worried about your teenage kid crashing there because you just watch Cranston cars head into each other and you know it. I think everyone knows a corner in their neighborhood. So we'll start with that. So now we've created a new one. Winnie's coming down and you're now sliding down that hill. There's kind of a bit of a flat, but you're probably still carrying a little bit of momentum. And now you're into, Winnie is Winifred, in case anyone didn't know. You've come down Winifred, now you're in Main Street at a perfect three-way intersection, regardless. But that's whatever. They can put down, I don't know, sand, gravel, plow, I don't know where all that stuff's gonna go. But we have a runoff issue. Where's all that water gonna go? And I don't mean to be turning around, I know I'm directing to you, but we have one of our neighbors here
which we saw their house on our walkthrough. That house is going to be swimming because where else is that water going to go? Now, if you recall the conversation at the top of the hill with the engineer, we can fix everything. We can do runoff. We can do everything, whatever. And sure, they can. I mean, we're planning engineers. My father was an engineer. He did amazing things that you guys don't even know about. He worked for the government. And it was, we can put a man on Mars. We can put a man on the moon, whatever. But do we need to? Do we really need to make this road for, this is something Jess was, why? So he again makes more money? Okay, so now we have this runoff, water runoff, flooding the person's house. And we've also found that that house is in that same right of way. So where does that go? We have a bunch of now right away, then there's a right away on the other side of the entry. Now, remember well, let me see if there's some other things I need to talk to before I get there. Runoff, I talked about that. That's going to be a problem in every site, every abutter, everything. We've got a ledge. Oh, ledge. We've talked about that. I'm trying not to be repetitive. You asked me not to, but I just have to make a point. Ledge is rock. Ledge is bedrock. Ledge is, it's impervious. It's, I don't know, if you're bored, you can look up what blasting looks like. I was watching, This Old House has a great video on YouTube it was from their house up in New Hampshire, and they were doing blasting, and they set out the big mats. And if you've ever watched blasting, it just makes a mess. And then there are these I have a teenage kid and he loves watching videos. And so I was watching some of these videos of Dr. Dynamite, and he goes around, just blows up whole neighborhoods. And it's a cool thing. I mean, I used to live in Detroit. And when I lived in Detroit, we used to watch, we have a IT problem? No? Okay. We used to go to Demolition Day and they would blow up famous buildings. Okay, so we're blowing stuff up. And we were told by the engineer they're not going to. Well, how are they going to cross that red line? How are they going to put in every sewer? How are they going to put in every water line? How are they going to put in, there's blasting. You can say that out loud. I used a month ago, I used the word intent. It's like, I don't know, it's ridiculous. Tonight's word is deny. Deny. So let's look at that. Deny it. Okay, so deny, runoff, deny. Vaughn Lane. I don't know. So there's some, that first, we call it, you call it Vaughn 1. That's the one that's hitting my property. Vaughn 1 is it's coming back. It goes up. Now, there's two other properties that are affected, the Greens and the Hortas. That's bull caca because there's a driveway that's being cut off and that person can't get to their house anymore. That's the Greens. And Dave Horta is losing a big chunk of his land on that as well because he, as a neighbor, any of you guys neighbors, people who are neighbors, oh, I forgot something.
Sir.
Are we doing this is my maple syrup. This is applied to Vaughn Lane, but talking about neighbors, in my neighborhood, we do things for each other. And Dave Horta gives the exit to the Greens property through his own land. And believe it or not, he also had his whole front yard taken. Dave Horta is in this room. He's quiet. He hasn't said a thing ever in any of these weeks. He talks to me and says, will you say something for me? Last summer, he tore up his whole front yard so they could run a water line to the Greens property because they lost water. There's no easement. He just said, okay, tear up his whole front yard. I can't remember which of the construction. They messed up his house bad. Neighborhood. This is the stuff that we talk about. You're lucky if you have a neighbor that's willing to do that for you. This is neighborhood. I'm sorry, I should have brought this up. This is maple syrup. I talked about it before in the past 2 months. This is from my trees. And this is something that I'm going to share to some of my neighbors as well. And, you know, hopefully at some point in time, if you're ever in the neighborhood, I'd be glad to share that with you guys as well. Deny, okay. School district, that didn't come up tonight. I saw in the budget, I don't know, there's no economics in here, but I heard in the budget that they're not even paying the schools their required budgets this year. So, and every school is actually at capacity. We've talked about that, so I'll move on. Deny. Nature, we haven't heard anyone talk about the flora and the fauna tonight. You know, there's a bear, there's a new, a beautiful buck with fuzzy antlers. That's sort of my family. I just recently lost my parents, and a deer is a symbol of my father. And seeing a buck walk through my backyard is a symbol of my father. And every time I see it, it's you know, I'm brought to tears. The garages, an enforcement issue is what was brought up. Now, this is, I apologize to each and every one of you because I know some of you have studied law. This is the Declaration of Independence. I carry this with me at all times. You know, we to all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator, blah, blah, blah. We all understand that part. The Fifth Amendment. No person shall be held to answer. Is there anyone who's unfamiliar with this document? Because every member of this commission has signed and agreed to follow the commission. The commission was ordered to follow the Constitution in the United States as well as the Cranston Constitution, but the United States one supersedes everything that's in your city. Now, I'll save you the majority of this. It's oddly published everywhere, We the People, all that stuff. But I'll get to the part that's towards the end. Where is it? Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without the process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation.
Mr. Chairman, although it's your meeting, you do have the right to allow this. It does seem to be going above and beyond the scope of the project.
Is it?
If, as I said earlier, I understand you're quoting to me the Fifth Amendment. I'm fairly familiar with it. I believe everyone else here as well. I'd like to, if possible, if you could stay, you could be more succinct.
Okay.
In your comments and say, for example, I believe this is a taking that's unconstitutional, period, and then move on.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll do my best. But in the rapport that we've created over the past few months in this context, I think you've found that this isn't how I pass.
Like I said, unlike other bodies in this city, like the city council, for example, that shuts people down after 3 minutes, no matter what they're saying. I have had the practice of allowing basically a pretty lengthy public comment if you want. And the reason I've done so is that I believe that the people who are affected, you know, they feel very strongly about the project and they should be able to express themselves fully. I only ask you, we show that respect to everyone. I just ask you to show respect to the time of others here as well by being succinct.
Understood. I'll do my best.
Thank you.
I will, I have only a few more things to say. First of all, I'll use the word deny. This is something that is pretty simple. We talked about let me get all of my paperwork here. Where's the other page? So this is a, I'll be succinct. This is from the master plan. This is, I want this to go on record. The river that, or the stream that does not follow through my property, it is on the map presented in the master plan. And under key, you can see, I will pass this around as well. Created. And so that is succinct. I'm clear that that's there. And oh, here's one more page. Stream that it goes through my property. One more thing. Oh, I think it didn't come back. I'm sorry, I'm a little confused here. Apologize. I'm just about finished. Oh, well, anyways. Oh, and there you go. This is another topo map. I think everyone's familiar with topo maps. We've talked about, I talked a little bit about runoff. This is the master plan. The orange areas are the proposed runoff. Make a rough look at this. Topos runs downhill. Runoff is the drainage portages are at the top of the plan. And then there's one over here, but that doesn't affect Vaughan 1. It doesn't affect the majority of the left. It doesn't affect the majority of the plan, in fact. So I mean, I'm sure that's going to be denied because we have a lack of transparency. We're just going to hide things. I'm going to sign papers, checklists that mean nothing. I found 5 more things that the checklists weren't noted on. And then, you know who that shows badly on? The Planning Commission. I'm sorry, you cannot let things like the existing contours and intervals, minimum of 2 feet on sheet 3. And it's a blank sheet. There's no contours. How do you miss that? This dimensions and total area of the student parcels, location, dimension, existing property lines, easements. It's, sheets 3, 4, and 5. There's nothing on those. I'm sorry, I'm done. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, whatever. Denied.
Thank you. Any other public comment here in the room?
I'll make it short and sweet.
Name and address.
Mike Klitzner, 1410 Hope Road. Moved to Hope Road in 1982. Been there ever since. The old timers had it down pat. We have fire stations all throughout the community. Last speaker took over Fiskville Fire Station. He made it his home. 1995, they closed out and disbanded all the volunteer fire departments that were in Fiskville, Neshannock Volunteer, and Oak Lawn. Oak Lawn had a pumper and a tanker. Neshannock had 2 engines. Fiskville had 2 engines also. So the density of this neighborhood has increased. We have lost fire coverage. City in 2006 decided to move their police station as far away from us as they possibly could get. They're on the Providence line. We have city services, but we don't have city services. We pay taxes for them, but we don't have adequate coverage. And I would like this council to address that with the city if they are going to enhance that coverage that we have. Because like I say, we were surrounded by 3 or 4 little fire stations that had adequate equipment to handle whatever happened in that neighborhood. They've taken that away in 1995, and ever since then, the density of the neighborhood has increased. I mean, my ride home in 1982 was far different than it is today, with housing and developments and everything else. Mystery Farm was a farm, not anymore. Things like that have changed, but they have not had the resources, and I don't blame any of the people that run the fire department or the people that man the engine and equipment. It has to be addressed before you put something of this magnitude in place and not say that city services have to be looked at for fire and police protection. That's all I have.
Good evening. Drake Patton, 684 Natick Avenue. I don't live in this neighborhood. Some of you may know that. I live on Natick. Very different neighborhood, and yet not so different. Part of how our community was built, farms and mills and things that happened. Our street was the farm road to my farm. It's now a road. But that took a long time to happen. And in that case, it was officially accepted. And yet I've still heard Public Works talk about it as a cow path. That's how communities happen. But it's also a responsibility for all of us, and especially for you. And thank you for the time you've put into this, because it's a lot, and I know that. We have a responsibility also to the future. And I want to comment on what Moses said. That's right. He talked about how there's going to be, buildings everywhere. We don't have a choice, right? We're going to be fitting things in where we never had buildings before. And he's right. I mean, that's what we're seeing, isn't it? Every little spot where we can put a building, we're doing it. But what does that leave for the future? We're not stopping living here tomorrow. We have generations to come. I'm an archaeologist, and one of the tenets of what we do, and it's a really big one, so I invite you to think about it, is when you dig a site, you never dig the whole site. And you don't do that because you know that someone smarter is going to come along. I believe that in this community, and it doesn't just apply to this project, this is a challenge, I guess, for all of us, for you who sit in those chairs and for us who sit out in public, is how do we do all of that at once? The state is pressuring us to do housing, but we still need to retain land for the future. This is a beautiful piece of land with lots of challenges, just like a native project that we'll soon be looking at. Very similar. Not all land is suitable for development. That's a fact. And you have legislation around that at the state level, at the local level. It is just simply fact. So I encourage you to think hard about this, because this land is just not suitable. Thank you.
Any further public comment in the room? Mr. Lima, is there anyone online that would like to make public comment?
I see no public comment.
Thank you. All right, this will conclude tonight's session of public comment. Mr. Moses, at this point, do you want to say anything in response? You could do so if you want at this time orally. You can also just wait and do it at the next meeting, or you could do it in writing, obviously, prior to the next meeting. I'll leave that choice up to you. Yep, go ahead.
Mr. President, Commissioners, I will be brief. We will also respond in writing. But first and foremost, if you haven't had the opportunity to look at documents that have been submitted to you regarding the agreements of the properties that are in the garages that are on Bourne Lane, there was a bargain and sale deed without covenants that was filed by Jamie Wolf, the administrator of the Seneckias. And if you look at the attachments in there that were up before, you'll notice that one of the attachments has an unofficial map on it, and it circles these areas. And in it, it says, buildings, not land. I'd also like to bring to your attention. Earlier, it was said that the deed referred to evidently, and that evidently was, you should really be able to understand that because that's such a simple question. So I took 10 seconds and looked up the definition of evidently, and you can all do it. You all have cell phones, computers, whatever you have. But the first one definition says from the Oxford Languages, plainly or obviously, in a way that is clearly seen or understood. So when it was misrepresented to you what the word evidently meant. And I think it's imperative that you hear that. As to whether or not there was a survey submitted with the original master plan, there was a survey that was submitted and it's dated from 2011 and it's in your files. There's an Alta survey. So that statement was also incorrect. Mr. President and members of this commission, you have a difficult job. You have to listen to all sides, but people have a right to their property. That was so eloquently stated by the prior speaker. That right extends to my client. He has the beneficial right of his property to make the most of it as he can under your rules and regulations, of which we are doing. To state that we're making things up or there's magical engineering going on here. Everything we will do will be reviewed by the city engineering department, as we know, reviewed by the Department of Environmental Management, all the requirements for drainage, all the requirements of wetlands, all the requirements of road construction. They will be independently reviewed and approved by third parties. So we're not coming to this neighborhood and trying to hoodwink anyone. We're just trying to do what we're legally entitled to do. That's all I want to say to you tonight, Mr. President and Commissioners. I strongly believe that a lot of misstatements were made tonight, but we will address it in the record. And I hope you continue this as we stated.
Thank you. All right, to my fellow colleagues, I don't know if there's any further questions or comments. Obviously what we have heard, and I'll try to summarize it succinctly as I can, is that the abutters have requested that we deny it tonight. The applicant has requested that we continue it until the September meeting. The September meeting is on what day? Was it like the 3rd, the 4th? What's the date? 2nd? Okay, sorry. To September 2nd, to give him and to give the applicant time to respond and to address concerns that the butters have expressed, but also concerns and questions that I have or other commissioners have. It'll also give us more time to look at it. So that's really what's on the table, whether or not to continue it or to deny it. And I open the floor up to anybody what they want to say. Commissioner Lanfear.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I just want to say and remind everyone, this is master plan stage. So the fact that we are not, as a commission, addressing some of the concerns that you raised tonight is not because they are not concerns to us, but because by state law, under a master plan approval, we have certain things that we can consider and other things we are not allowed by state law to consider until a matter, if it does, reaches the preliminary stage. So I just want to say that because I don't want the impression to be left with people that some of the issues you raise, such as police and fire, such as animals and wetland issues, they will, if it gets to preliminary plan, be addressed. But one of the issues that we are allowed to consider, and I think has been a concern for many of us, is the access issue. I would like to be shown reliable, probative evidence that the property that the applicant asserts is owned by the city as a right-of-way and that will be used is actually owned by the city by dedication and acceptance or otherwise. That information is ascertainable, whether it's by title examination or otherwise. And if the applicant believes that that information is already part of the record, and I am just not seeing it or overlooking it, I would invite you to walk me through it. I am not a land use attorney. I have never searched a title. I would appreciate being educated. So if that information is there and you can demonstrate that to me, I would invite you to do so. I would also say that the letter from Providence Water that states generally, yes, a roadway can be put, among other things, can be put over the aqueduct. It says it's subject to restrictions. Now, I know at some point the applicant intends to reach out further and find out what those restrictions are. But those restrictions may impact access. They may even eliminate an access point or in some way affect it. The commission is being asked to consider an approval at master plan stage that vests the applicant with a certain number of homes, certain locations of the homes, but yet the commission does not have reliable evidence that access is represented in the plan, as represented in the plans, is reasonably achievable. And if some of those access points cannot be used at all or to the extent asserted by the applicant, we have already vested you, the applicant, with that number of homes and those locations, even though down the road it may prove not to be achievable. So I think the commission is, whether it's by law, because there is certain information that applicants do not have to provide until preliminary plan stage, or otherwise, we as a commission are in the position of having to make a determination that if we approve, we may find out down the road that number of homes is not suitable or the locations are not suitable. So I would implore the applicant to share with the commission information that would help us to feel more comfortable saying, yes, that access is reasonable and that access is achievable. And we can then move on to the next stage. But right now, I am not comfortable and don't feel that I have the necessary information in the record to demonstrate that access is evident or achievable. So I would like to afford the applicant that opportunity to demonstrate that to me. That information by way of title search or otherwise is somewhere. It has been there. It is capable of being retrieved and explained to us. And I would ask that should we continue this tonight, that be provided to the commission, all of that information, as well as to obviously the abutters and council well in advance of our next meeting so that we can review it, digest it, understand it, and make an informed decision.
about it.
Thank you, Commissioner Lampier. Are there any other comments from my colleagues on this matter? Okay. I've spoken a lot already tonight, so I don't like speaking as much as people think I do. My own view right now is I would support a continuance because in the two cases that the abutters attorney cited, Zakonic and Davis, the board there gave numerous chances for the applicant to provide the information. And then after maybe 5 months, 6 months, I can't remember how long, then they made a decision that was negative towards the applicant and it was appealed. And that's what occurred. I understand that the abutters view is that this information should have been presented at the beginning, before at the time of the application. Most of the time, public right of way is not a major disputed issue. That's the truth in the city of Cranston. Maybe out in Exeter, where there's paper roads and other things going on, but here it's usually not. So I can understand that people looked at GIS maps and they made decisions. So I tend to agree that the applicant at this point has heard a lot from at least two commissioners and from the public, and have heard from staff and the attorney about information. And at that point, I'd like to give the applicant a chance to present this information, and then we can assess. Certainly the information should be presented not on the eve of the meeting so that we can review it properly. And then we can make a determination about it. As I really do believe, and I apologize for my ignorance here to the applicant, this is a complicated situation for me on right of access, public right of access. Maybe I'm just not used to seeing things in other communities, but we don't usually see this kind of stuff here, especially in this area. So I'm inclined to grant a continuance to September 2nd. We have until approximately mid-October to render a decision. The abutters will still be here, and the applicant will have time to present what they want. And maybe September we'll be ready to make a decision. That's my sense, unless my colleagues feel that they're ready to make a decision at this time. Whether to approve or to deny, or I try to get the solicitor to explain to me if I had other options, like outside, go through the window, you know what I mean, just go somewhere else. But anyway, that's what it is. So just want to hear from anyone else. Have any comments? Otherwise. Okay. Are people getting ready for a motion, or are they ready to make a comment? Motion. Okay. I'm inclined to grant to make a motion. So I'm inclined to have a motion to continue this till September the 2nd on the next regular meeting. Commissioner Zales?
I make the motion to continue it till the next scheduled meeting.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
Which is September 2nd.
September 2nd. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Marcel.
The reason I say that, we have another scheduled meeting in August regarding the comprehensive
Comp plan, right? Yeah. Okay. So September 2nd. That was seconded by Commissioner Mancini. Any further discussion? All those in favor, therefore, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Okay. Sorry. We'll see you again in September. All right. We have one more thing on the docket. We'll let everybody kind of get out and we'll start up in about a couple minutes.
I think we're ready to proceed with the next phase of the agenda. City Planning Director's Report, and this is a discussion about the comprehensive plan. Thank you. Director Ashman.
I'm sure you're not thrilled to see a second August meeting appearing on your calendars, but we felt like we knew we couldn't talk about comprehensive plan on a night where we have other things like this on the agenda. So we have put, we are calling a special meeting for, August 26th, and the department's been working really hard on the housing element. We have Weston Sampson, our consultants, working really hard on a number of missing items for the checklist that would allow us to submit our comprehensive plan for state approval. We will have those materials for you so we can hopefully digest and understand and discuss them on August 26th. I'm planning to advertise the public hearing for a subsequent meeting so that we don't have to do all of that in one night. So the 26th is the first time we'll have all those materials for discussion. I also want to mention that we've submitted fairly substantial applications to Rhode Island Housing for consulting grants to help us draft the ordinances we would need to implement our comprehensive plan. And we decided to hedge our bets and applied for both the Municipal Assistance Grant Program and also what they called their TOD grant program, which would be a little more limited, but would help us work on our zoning for mixed use areas within the town. And I have no progress to report on the search for senior planner, but that is ongoing. And we'll see you all again very soon.
So we can explain to my colleagues this comprehensive plan, where this is going. We have a comprehensive plan that's been approved at the local level, but has not been approved yet at the state level, has not been submitted at the state. So we need to make some changes to the plan was approved last year to make sure it complies with a checklist so that we can submit it to the state. Also, because of state law changes, it is important for us to make changes on the housing production element of our plan. And again, submit it to the state, because that part of the law takes effect January 1st. Because our goal is to submit an amended comprehensive plan by the end of September to the city council, so they can review it, their ordinance committee in October, and then approve it at the end of October. And then so we can immediately submit it to the state. We may submit it beforehand saying this is pending approval, but again, that's the timeline. For us to have the time frame of what I just described, we need to probably have a meeting the end of August, as we discussed, Director, and that's why she put down the August 26th, with the idea that if we get this wrapped up, we can then have a vote on it at the beginning of September that should be noticed in the newspaper. So I just want to see, before we schedule this definitively for August 26th, can I please have a quorum for August 26th? It's a 6:30 here. So I have one from Mr. Exter, I have one from Mays, I have one from Commissioner Renzulli, Commissioner Dallas. Okay. I'm sorry, Commissioner Lanfear, Commissioner Barberi cannot be here. Please, when you see the thing posted. Huh? Oh, I don't know. He's not here. He hasn't been here for a couple months. So all I know is I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got insurance. As I was saying with my colleagues who are not going to be present for the 26th meeting, make sure to review it. It will be posted ahead of time. And please provide your comments or considerations to Director Ashman so we can incorporate it in any final approval that goes before us first. So that's the game plan. That's why we're doing this meeting, is so that we can get this in front of the council by the end of September, get it submitted to the state so that they can review it and get this done around January when the new state law is around that. So it makes 3 changes we have to, but that's why I'm doing this right.
This will not conclude phase 2 of the comp plan.
This is basically finishing. Making sure that we have a comp plan that's approved at the state level that has a housing production component in case there are certain applications that would benefit us by having a housing production plan with that state.
Any questions for myself or the director on this? Commissioner Lanford?
No questions, just as soon as you're able to get it to us to start looking at. Would be best.
We promised we'll have all materials on the website by the 19th. That's a week in advance. Mhm.
Right. And as I said to the director, I'm very happy that I had a very busy month at work, but I have some lightened up. So if I need to do some heavy writing and revision, I'm ready and willing
Okay.
to do it. I'm just not sure. I'll just leave it there. All right, is there anything else anyone has to ask or talk about this aspect on the agenda? Director
I
Correct.
just quickly, what is this housing
Production?
production requirement?
Okay, so, all right. Okay. It's. It's something that state law, there's been a change in state law. And we need to, it's just this constant hamster wheel thing, you know, and we have to, it's in our best interest to have a state approved housing production plan. I think the production goals need to mirror the state's goals for the city of Cranston. That's kind of what my understanding is, but.
And it's a complex puzzle to solve to figure out how to address all the input we've got on housing and still meet those numbers, but we are going to put forward our best
All we can do.
solution to the puzzle.
All we can do is the best we can. So, all right, is there anything else? Otherwise, a motion to adjourn would be in order. Motion adjourned made by Director Correo. Seconded by Commissioner Lanford. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. See you next couple weeks.